Hey, I'm live. Okay, so we're gonna make some bread. Tonight, Laura is going to make a beef vegetable stew. It's gonna have a tomato base to it, and she asked me if I would make some bread, and I love bread. I don't eat it a whole lot anymore because I went on a carb-free diet, and basically I don't eat carbs most of the week. I only eat eggs, meat, and cheese, and I only eat carbs or have a drink like a whiskey and some wine, my meal, like the 3 nights that we're usually together. If you didn't know, Laura and I are not married. Some people call her my wife. Usually when people call the other one, like they call me her husband or me, her, my wife. Well, if we don't really know the person, we usually just don't correct them because it's too complicated to explain. But anyway, Laura and I don't live together. She lives over on the west side. I live over on the east side. So it's like we have 2 homes. What's really nice about it is that if we get a chance, we get an opportunity to miss each other. I mean, I saw her Wednesday night. I saw her Thursday morning, and I miss her madly. It's only been a day. So it's kind of like having the magic of a long distance relationship, but not really being long distance. See what I'm saying? So our typical pattern, unless there's some outside force making it different, is usually on Friday. I go over her house. I get there about 3. I get there early. And then when she gets off work, we go for a nice long walk. We take showers. Then she cooks something and we'll watch a movie on Netflix or whatever. And then on Saturday night and Saturday morning, she'll make me, if I don't have to go somewhere, 'cause she likes to sleep in, she'll make me a waffle. And then she'll come over to my house Saturday night, and then I will make a meal. And then Sunday morning, I make breakfast for us, and it's really nice. And then she goes, and that's always the saddest time of the week for me is on Sunday afternoon when she pulls away. And then on Wednesday, we usually have a midweek get together, and typically it's at my house, and I'll cook something for that night too. But lately we love the debates. We don't talk about it publicly because we are political. Of course, everybody is. But the difference is, first of all, we don't talk about it publicly because it's not worth it to us to argue with people. Or also, I'll just admit it. I'm on one side. I'm really just slightly to one side, to tell you the truth. I'm more in the center. But I got friends on both sides. I got friends that are extremely passionate on both sides. And I'm telling you, good friends, people that I absolutely love, that I think are fantastic people, and some of them vote one way and some of them vote the other way. Man, I love them equally, man. I don't care. And the other thing is also, I'm a businessman. I'm writing books and I'm selling them to people. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make, if they're in business, whether they're selling widgets or they're actors, is going out and shooting your mouth off. If you want to get into politics and be a pundit, that's fine. Do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you are trying to, I write books. I don't care who you vote for. As long as you buy my book, that's all I care. I'm going to vote who I think is right, and I want you to vote for whom you think is right, even if it's the other person, man. I honestly, I'm not kidding you, man. I'm not just trying to act like I'm a good guy, because I'm not. I think that's very important. So anyway, why do I have this YouTube channel? Well, why do I? It's changed over years. It started off as me doing guitar gear. And then it was just a dumping ground to put my news stories on and me playing the fiddle. But I'm learning, I'm doing things and I'm learning as I go, and I'm learning social media marketing, and YouTube's a big part of that. So I'm trying to build up the channel. I used to do a lot of lives on Facebook, and they would do pretty well, and I'd get a nice audience, especially the cooking ones. But the thing is, those videos are only good for 48 hours and then they're gone. It's buried. But when you do YouTube, first of all, I'm not limited to my friends. I'm on the entire platform. So you have potential for a larger audience. And you also have findability. Once you do your video on YouTube, 48 hours, it's buried. But on YouTube, this will live forever. I have videos that I've done over 10 years ago that are still getting comments, still getting likes. Me demonstrating guitar equipment, because that's what I was doing 10 years ago. So, and I was listening to the social media marketing podcast today, and they say you really need to focus yourself on one thing or the other. And so I'm breaking that rule a little bit, because what I want to do with my YouTube, I like doing live because I just feel more comfortable just being live. If I had to record this, I'd be making mistakes and starting over. But because it's live, I just got to do it. And so I think I'm better that way. I'm when it comes to music, I'm better if I just know the tune and kind of improvise and playing live, as opposed to reading music and recording. When I was on TV a lot, I was much better this way, out in the field, being live on location, than being in a studio with teleprompter. And God, I used to hate floor directors. I mean, I didn't hate them as people, but they were actually more distracting than they helped. And they'd bark orders at you, and it just made me nervous, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, I can see, point to that camera. Anyway, enough of that. So, but the other thing I want to do is I love to cook, and I think that actually gets better response when I do cooking videos. And also, I'm a pretty grubby, greasy guy. I mean, if you find me on a normal day, I usually have greasy hair, and I'm unshaven and look pretty bad. So this morning I went on WANT radio station to help promote Ghost in the Grove, which is a thing that I'm a part of every year. It's it raises money for Fiddler's Grove out in Lebanon, out in the Wilson County Fairgrounds. Fiddler's Grove is like, they basically recreated a 19th century village, and it's neat. Kids come from all over the place. It's educational. It's also preserving our heritage and our history. I love being a part of it. I love Gwen Scott. She's fabulous to me, and I'm on the advisory board, and my band plays there. That's next weekend. Man, I'm telling you, like, you want to take your kids out to do something cool. We've made this a family-friendly thing. It's not too scary. You're not going to have to get your kids into therapy. It's a good time for the family. You're going to be outside. If you're concerned about COVID, it's an outdoor event. We're going to be playing there. Scuffle Moss is going to be there. Big fan of Scuffle Moss. He's the internet's favorite troll. And the Tennessee Ghostbusters. Those guys are fabulous. Every time they come out, people love them. And I'm going to be there with my band, the Inglewood Old Time String Band. So let's make some bread. Like, I got to put some stuff away. So tomorrow I'm going to make a pizza. And here, I'll just open this up. And I'll tell you, I do this on purpose. I don't get everything set up. And I'm going to try to talk loud so you can hear me. I don't get everything all set up and perfect before I start, because I want to show you that this is a real working man's kitchen. And, I do things for real. And it's another thing I like being about live, is because I think a lot about cooking is just having confidence and being able to make, it's okay to make mistakes. You'll make them. And you know what? You'll make a mistake, and you'll learn from it. And sometimes you'll learn to do something better because you made a mistake and you're like, oh, well, to fix it, I had to do this. And guess what? That thing that you did makes it better. So we're going to make some bread. And I'll tell you right now, this bread is better than anything you're going to buy in the grocery store, man. I would rather have my own bread than what I buy in the grocery store. And this is real easy. Anybody can do this. I'm gonna start off by giving you a very big trying to show my face. All right, nobody wants to look at my ugly face. I was gonna show you. I'm gonna start off by showing you the very, very minimum what you need to do, and then we're gonna doll it up a little bit. Okay. So what we're gonna start off with is, what do you think is the number one ingredient in bread? It's not a trick question. It's rather simple. You use flour. Now, you can use all-purpose. I don't know anything about the self-rising stuff, so if you think that's good, I just don't know what you're supposed to do with it. I use bread flour. It's got, ready for this, it's got a little extra gluten in it. And oh my God, gluten, isn't that like what the devil eats? You know, I don't know. I don't know what the arguments. I got cousins out in California that will tell you that it's the worst thing you could possibly do. It's basically just what holds it together so that it gives it the bread a little bit elasticity. It helps it together. It's really good for pizza, and that's why I get bread bread flour, because it does have a little extra gluten in it, and helps it. To me, because I hand toss the pizza, it just makes that easier, and I'm not noticing any kind of dire effect. I mean, when I die 10 years from now because I ate too much gluten, you know, you guys can all laugh. You know what? And honestly, you can. If I like laugh, if I die in a stupid way, you can come to my funeral and say, he was a great guy, but man, what an idiot. And everybody laugh, and I'll be like, you know, in my casket chuckling too. I'm like, hey, well, you got me there. Okay, so we did 2. Yeah, I'm not even telling you what I'm doing, right? So that's 2 cups of flour. You can use all-purpose flour. Let's see what else is out there. Yeah, all-purpose flour is fine for this. I got a package of active yeast. Now, this is really interesting. I almost bought more of this stuff. This is the pizza yeast, and I use that because I'll give you a little hint here. My pizza dough and my bread is almost the same thing. But it says on the back here, not good for making bread. So, okay, if the people trying to sell me the yeast is telling me it's not good for something, then I'm going to believe them, because why would they tell me that? I mean, you know, me trying to sell something, yeah, it's great for everything, you know. All right, so what we're going to do is, now that yeast is a living thing, but it needs, as Laura would call, a reagent to kind of activate it. So it needs some food. So I got some powdered sugar, and I just took like a little teaspoon, and I'm going to mix that in there. And just a little tablespoon of, or not a tablespoon, or like a teaspoon. I'll actually use a teaspoon. I usually just eyeball it, but yeah, maybe like a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, I've heard that the salt actually, the yeast doesn't like salt, so I keep that separate until I mix it. And finally, we're going to add about a cup of water. You can go 3/4 cup to a cup. We'll do a cup. Now, right there, we could be done right there. That could be it. No more. Okay? That's fine. Now we're going to doll it up a little bit. Okay? So I'm going to add a little cornmeal to it. I think the cornmeal adds it just makes it a little stiffer, or I don't know how to describe it. I'll show you when we get done. It works well on the pizza crust too. Little cornmeal. Also, you can add an egg, and the egg will make it a little fluffier. The egg also is a I don't know what you call it. What do you call what yeast or baking powder and all that stuff does? It helps make it rise, and the egg will add some depth, some moisture, some denseness to it. Now, all these things are extra. You don't have to do these extra things. I'm doing it because I love my bread. I mean, this is going to be a big part of our meal. And I add a little olive oil too, because you know what? I love oil. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to do that joke every time. Now, this bread is going to be with a beef stew, with a tomato-based beef stew. So it's going to be really hearty. So we can add some things to it to make it to mash that. So I'm going to put a little garlic in there, man. Like, why not? Garlic is like, after salt and pepper, garlic is like the next thing. And let's do, let's see, we'll do a little pepper. Using this thing, I always put too much. All right, just a little pepper there. And finally, good, it was easy to find. I love rosemary, and I think rosemary is great in bread. And it just, it smells so good. It just has such a kind of a folky, provincial kind of flavor to it. So that's it. I'm not going to do any more than that. So we dulled it up a little bit. All you really need is flour, water, yeast, a little sugar, and a little salt. But we added olive oil. We added an egg. We added some cornmeal. We put some garlic, some pepper, and some rosemary. So now what we're going to do, this is where it gets really nasty. Well, not nasty, but you got to get your hands dirty. So first of all, if you're drinking at home, take a drink every time I wash my hands, because we're going to get up in there, man. We're going to get up in there. All right, let's do it. And so I'm just going to go in there, and I'm just going to, with my hand, there's really no better way, because you're just going to have to clean it off with some other utensil. You might as well just get your hands in there, get it dirty. And I'm just going to mix it up. Now, this is a little loose, probably too much water. That's okay. We're going to let it rise, and I'll probably add some more flour. God, I can smell it already. Because I added some more liquid. I added some the egg and some oil. You know what? I'm just going to see what I mean. This is why I do it live, because I don't do things perfectly, and I want you to know that it's okay. You can make it, and also I'm very much an eyeballer, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball some more. I just want to get it was a little too loose. Let's work that in there. Be a bigger. This is gonna be so good. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the initial mixing here. And once I get it to the consistency I want, by adding a little bit more flour here, which I think we're pretty close, then we're just gonna let it sit for about an hour, and let it rise. Yeah, I had too much water in there. It really, the recipe usually calls for 3/4 cup, and I put a whole cup, and then I added oil and some egg. So that made it a little too loose for my taste. Would it have worked? Maybe. Now, some of you might have one of those $300 Cuisinart mixers. Those are really awesome. I've never had one or used one, but wow, what a thing to have. I don't bake enough to really make that worth my while. And I think I'll go with that. That's the consistency I'm going to go with. It's still a little tacky. It's still a little loose. It's sticking to the bowl. That's fine, because what we're going to do, we're going to let that rise for about an hour. And tastes good though. Yes, you shouldn't eat raw dough like I just did, but it's Fridays. It's Friday, and we can be a little lax with the rules on Friday, right? It's Friday. Now what I do is I take a rag, clean rag, and I soak it in hot water. Wring it out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drape it over the bowl, and it just creates a nice, warm, moist atmosphere for that yeast to start doing its work. So what's going to happen is that yeast is going to start eating that sugar, and when it does, it's going to emit I can't remember what gas it is. CO2? I don't know. But it's going to start emitting a gas. It's going to make the dough start expanding, and that's what rising does. And the egg's going to help in that too. And so in about an hour, and you'll see. So I want you to just take a good look at this. Take a look what it looks like right now. Okay. When we reveal it in an hour, it's going to be like taking up the whole pot. It's going to blow up. It's going to be like double in size. So then what we'll do is we're gonna put some wax paper on the counter. You can do it right if you have the right kind of counter. You can do it right on your counter. But put some wax paper on the counter. We're going to put some flour That's why I don't mind it being a little loose, because we're still going to add more flour. We're going to put some flour on that wax paper, and then I'm going to knead the dough and really work it and until it gets into a nut. Like right now, it's kind of tacky and it's sticky. It's going to be a nice smooth ball. At that point, we'll put it in. I don't know if I can. You can either put it like in a bread pan so it comes out like the way bread, like if you want to cut it in slices for sandwiches, or sometimes the European ways, you just put the whole blob like on a baking sheet and let it rise from there. Since it's soup and we're not making sandwiches, I might just do that. That's kind of like the old European way. But what we'll do is after it rises, we're going to press it and knead it. We're going to use some more flour to do that until it gets to a nice shape. I might drizzle some olive oil on top and maybe put some sesame on top as well. And then I'm going to let it rise again. It's going to rise for a second time. And then we're going to bake it in the oven at 350 for 35 minutes. Seems to do the trick. So that's part one. I'm going to set the timer now. And so if you've been following me on my, none of this is official, but I call it guerrilla marketing and then like a little subtitle. So I've had a lot of activity in the last couple of days. It's a really big month for me. I've been doing a lot of traveling and taking advantage of, either a Civil War event that I can go and crash with my books, or yesterday was the 8th anniversary of the Battle of Perryville, and I call it guerrilla book marketing because no one invited me. No one said, "Hey, why don't you come down and sell your books?" In fact, I got basically shut down at Shiloh when I tried to. I ended up still being able to do it, but you never know what kind of reception you're going to get. But like, if it's within a day's drive of Nashville, where I live, then why wouldn't I take advantage of something like that? I wrote a novel about the Battle of Perryville. As far as I know, there's a nonfiction by Kenneth Noe, and that book actually I read and used it quite a bit in writing my book, along with other resources. But I'm the only one that I know of who's got an actual novel that takes place at the Battle of Perryville. So why not? Apparently they used to do things, but because of COVID, they didn't have anything planned. They were open, but this was sad. They were open and they had like two things. They had something about it was some kind of program about like the civilians dealing with all the death. They had that, which sounds pretty depressing. And they had something about butterflies. That's it. It's just the 158th anniversary of the bloodiest, largest battle in Kentucky. And I get it. They can only do so much. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go. And even if there is an event, I'm going to be a one-man event, man. I am the celebration, or I don't know if you should call this. I am the commemoration, the one-man commemoration of the Battle of Perryville. So I went up there, and there wasn't a lot. There were some people there to see the battlefield, and they were there because of the anniversary. And you couldn't go in the museum. You had to ring the bell, and they came up, and they would come out because they'd only allow like one group at a time inside because of COVID. And I told the woman who I was and what I was doing, and she says, "Okay, well, we'll get the park manager to come out, Brian." I said, "Okay." So I went over to my car, and I was like, I might as well make the most of my time. So knowing that, like at Shiloh, doing the same thing, I got kicked out. I opened up the back of my car. I put my books out on my little table, got my fiddle out, started playing. I started playing the very first song, and this nice lady came over, and she's like, "Yeah, I wanted to see what you were doing over here, what you were selling on your table." And long story short, she loved it. She bought, and this is really interesting. So she bought the Perils of Perryville, which was my intention. I went to Perryville to sell that book. That book is a sequel. It's a sequel to Rampage on the River. And it's a serialized sequel, meaning that there's two kinds of ways of doing a series. One is is an episodic series. Like think about Happy Days, right? Other than like the 2-part versions that they would do, when you watch Happy Days, it was just like somewhere in the life of the Fonz and Richie and Mr. C and all them, and what's going on. And you didn't have to watch last week's. And some people write, Bernard Cornwell typically writes that way. If you read a Richard Sharp book or a Uhtred book or whatever, yes, they're all connected and it's all part of this, about this character. But you don't have to have read the last one to know what's going on in the current one. You could pick up any of Cornwell's books. The Sharp series has got like 23 books. You could pick up any one and start reading anywhere in the timeline. In fact, he even wrote some of them out of order. I write serialized series, meaning that my trilogy is one continuous arc. Now, each book is a novel and a story into itself, a movie into itself. But I always say, think of original Star Wars. I'm a fan of the original Star Wars trilogy, and so when you watch Empire Strikes Back, you have already been introduced to the characters in the movie Star, and I call it Star Wars because it was Star Wars until they renamed it A New Hope like decades later. But the original Star Wars movie with Mark Hamill on Tatooine and first, getting his lightsaber, all that. But I write it so that if you didn't read the first book, you'd still be able to understand the second book. Like everything you need to know is in the second book. You might enjoy reading the first book, and so anyway, all that to say, I wrote it so that it's understandable. So if you read that first, it'd be okay. But I really want to know from somebody who really did just read Perils of Perryville first and didn't read Rampage, if they understood it. So anyway, I explained it to that lady, and she's like, "Yeah, I like it." And I said, "Do me a favor. Here's my card. Let me know what you think, because I want to know if I'm hitting that mark, because I'm doing the same thing with Blood for Blood at Nashville right now." And that one, it's going to be a long book, and it's going to take me a while to get done. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of stuck a little bit. I still need to do a lot more research because I want to get it right. I want to land the ship. I want to get it right. That's my Return of the Jedi of my series. So that woman bought a book, and I told Laura, I go, if I sell one book, then the whole trip's worth it. All right. So, and I did. I sold one book. So then I decided, okay, what am I going to do now? All right, so I went into town because I knew, the guy, Eric, the manager of the Battlefield, he came out and talked to me. And he's like, yeah, we can't, I can't make any purchasing decisions right now, but give me your card. And in December, we might get a hold of you to stock our gift shop. And I think, yeah, I'm biased, my book, but I think it belongs in that. If there's any gift shop in the world that book belongs, it belongs to the one at the Perryville Battleground, along with Kenneth No's book, which I think they sell there. So I went into town, and I was just going to find a place to just set up, play my fiddle, and see if I can get some kind of foot traffic. It's a tiny town, tiny little town. It's a little cross section. And there's Merchants Row, which has like a lot of antique shops that looks real historical and really neat, but there was nothing going on there. There was nobody there. So the only place I saw any kind of activity was there was a cafe called Salted Honey Cafe. And I thought that would be, at least people are coming by. So I went inside and I asked the lady there if I could set up outside, play the fiddle, and sell my books. And she's like, and I told her I wrote a book about Battle of Perryville, and she's like, "Really?" She's like, "Can I see it?" And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Do you do retail?" I said, "Yes, I do." So I sell it at a certain price so that I don't undercut Amazon, because frankly, I think I'd get in trouble if I was selling it, undercutting Amazon. It's just bad business. But I do give retailers a special price so that they can stock their shelves with it. And make a nice profit themselves. So she's like, okay, I want, and I explained to her, this book is about Perryville. There's the other book, which is the first one in the series. It's not about Perryville, but you might want some of those, but certainly your customers will be happy just reading the one about Perryville. And she says, okay. She goes, I will take 10 copies of the Perryville book and 4 copies of Rampage. I was like, oh my God, yes. And I told her, I said, you know what? I go, and she goes, will you sign them? I go, absolutely. Not only did I sign them, but I wrote the date and I wrote 158th anniversary. So those are special edition right there. And I told her, I said, you know what? I'm leaving after this. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to go outside and try to sell books now. You're selling the books. You don't undercut your customers, your vendors. So yeah, that was it. I mean, I said if I sold one book, it would be a victory. I sold 15 books. 15 books. Not only are there readers, but now my book is going to be on display somewhere in a store. And I don't make a whole lot of money selling through retailers, but it gives me credibility. When you go into Parnassus and you see they carry my book, it makes me a credible author. When you go into the Lots House, when you go into the Robertson County History Museum, when you go into Fort Negley Military Park and you see my book in the gift shop, it's because I'm a real deal. I'm connected to real history and real culture, and I'm a guy you should read. So I'm immensely happy. And also she said to me, she goes, next year, because she told me that she's involved with all the merchants downtown. And she said, it used to be that they would get a nice draw of people who would come to see the battlefield. But over the years, last couple of years, the interest has diminished. And I said, well, this is why I'm writing books, to get people back into the cool and fun history of, war is terrible, I know. But I write, kind of romantic adventure novels that are still very realistic as far as the war and doesn't glorify it, but still it's a good time. During the bad time. But she says, well, next year that they really want to do something and not just let the anniversary come and go and it's no big deal. And she said, would you come down and be a part of that and sign books and talk? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, the reason why I can't absolutely confirm right now is I'm just going to be honest. I'm still not quite there yet. So I'm still looking for work. And I was working for a research company, but that work is now dried up to March. I'm fine. But I'm still trying to, just keep myself afloat as I work on the books and get them out there. So who knows where I'll be and what I'm doing next year, this time of year. But if I'm free, absolutely. It's a 3.5 hour drive. No problem. I'll drive there. I'll spend all day. I'll sell books. I'll play the fiddle. I'll talk if you want me to give a talk. It's a great thing for me to do. The other thing I'm really excited about is, like I said, I did that interview on WANT this morning, and it's a substitute host. And I got off the air with him, and he goes, let me give you my my card, because he books bands, and he books bands for like festivals and shows. And actually he had a big pickup truck with a big trailer. And I guess he's going to set up for some band right after he got there. But he says, yeah, I might call on you and your band to do some stuff for us. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do it, And also on the writing side too, I do talks. So if you need content, I'm happy to come talk about my book. And he's like, yeah. He goes, we might get you in my L Club. And I said, I do a PowerPoint presentation. Right now, I do a presentation that is, I called the 2nd Michigan Cavalry and the Battle of Island Number 10, where I kind of talk about, I take you through the formation of the 2nd Michigan and their training, and I bring you all the way up through the Battle of Island Number 10. And then if somebody ever invites me back, then I'll do Perryville as a separate talk. And then if they invite me back a third time, I'll do I'll do the Battle of Nashville. I also have another talk that I do, or a presentation, and I've done this a couple times, and it's really come off well. I do a presentation called A Brief History of the American Civil War Through Fiddle Tunes. And I can do it by myself, or I can do it with my band. And basically what I do is I have a collection of fiddle tunes that were either tunes that were popular and played during the war, including a lot of marching tunes, or tunes that are about the war. And I've arranged them in a way that I kind of take you from the beginning, middle, and end of the war. And all my talks, I can expand them and contract them. I can do them in 20 minutes. I can do them in an hour. So he seemed very interested in that. So that might be coming down the pike. What is coming up for me now? Let's see. I'm going over to Laura's house tonight. Tomorrow I'm playing at they moved it. I'm doing a gig with the the Robertson County History Museum. And it's a Halloween thing. And we were going to be playing at a graveyard, a historic graveyard, but it's going to be raining all day tomorrow. So they moved it to the Springfield Middle School or junior high auditorium. I think it starts at 4:30. And it's going to be pretty cool. They're going to have like actors tell stories about, historical stories, like ghosts coming out of the grave and come up and tell you the story. So we're providing the music there. And Danny actually runs it over there. He's like, bring your books. We want you to sell your books. And even though they sell my books in the lobby, he's like, I don't care. You sell your books, make your money while you're here. And then when you're not here, we'll sell the copies that we have. So they stock me there. Danny's a great guy. They've been really good to me and to the band over there at Robertson County History Museum. So I'm very proud to be a part of that, their organization as well. It's just great. There's a great history community here in Middle Tennessee. I'm beginning to know people more and more, and everybody's just really awesome. Everybody kind of helps each other out. JT Thompson owns the Lowe's house. I love JT. He's a mentor to me. JT said, all boats rise with the tide. And I believe that, man. I really do. That's why I promote other authors. Rick Revell. I always want to call him Rick Revell, but I think he goes by Rick Revell. He's got a great book. I haven't read it myself, but I've heard great things. It's called In the Hills of Tennessee, and it's the story of Jack Hinson, who is a kind of a guerrilla warrior, sharp shooter, who after the Union cavalry murdered his son, he went on a one-man rampage and killed a bunch of Union officers. I recommend that book. Every time I see him post stuff about it, I like it, and even share it on my group, Engdahl House of Readers. And because you know what, you might be more interested in his book than mine, and you get done with his book, and you're like, oh, that's great. I want more. Yeah, Cody's got a book. I want to read his too. So it all works. It all comes around. We're all working together. Next week is Ghost in the Grove. Friday and Saturday. So please come out to that. It's a great, and the money goes to support Fiddler's Grove, which is a historical educational asset that we have here in Tennessee. Then the following, not next Thursday, but the following Thursday, I'll be back. I think that's the 22nd. I will be back at Cedar Hill. I'll be playing there with the Cedar Hill is a quaint little town. It lies somewhere between Springfield and Adams, I would say. And they have a farmer's market. It'll be the last of the year. Last time we're there, I always have books with me, by the way. I keep them in my car. So if you see me on the street, like, hey, I want one of your books. Not only do I have it, but I usually carry change on me too. Look at this. Cash money, man. That's just a bunch of ones so I can make change if someone wants to buy a book. And then that weekend, let's see. On Friday, is that right? No, on Saturday, I will be at the By Faith Farm. They're having like a kind of a festival, and they have vendors coming and selling things. Serenata, which is a wonderful band, Pablo Garzon, they're going to be the musical guests. But By Faith, I did a lot of playing, and I did mostly for just tips, and all summer long. And Lori said, "Hey, we're gonna give you a table. Like we're gonna waive your vendor fee because you've done so much work for us." Very kind of her. She's a very kind woman. The whole event is to raise money for the hungry, and so I'm going to be out there with Laura and selling and signing books, and then the following week on Devil's Night, which is October 30th for those who are not from Detroit, I'm going to be back at the Robertson County History Museum, and I'm going to be one of the storytellers there. I'm going to wear, I think they got a union uniform for me. So I'll be dressed in Civil War gear, and I'll be telling stories about spooky stories about Shiloh. I got a good one. I'm really about the angel glow. I mentioned it in Perryville, and then let's see I think I got something in November. I don't have really anything planned, but I know that I'm doing a book talk for a kind of a private saloon kind of thing, salon kind of thing, on via Zoom. That'll be on December the 4th, and I think that's it right now for my calendar. Oh, on the 12th of October, I'm going to Memphis or somewhere outside. A friend of mine is involved in shooting historical films, and they're full-length feature films that are on Amazon Prime, and I'll have more about it. But they invited me to come out to be to not only be an extra, but to play a little fiddle. So that'll be fun, and once again, historical people, I'm always, I want to help them. Like Marty, on a different film, he said, "Can you provide some music?" Yes, absolutely. What do you need? No problem. Here it is. My friend, you should listen to Untold Civil War podcast. I have done Paul. I get confused because Paul has the name Michael in his name too, so I get mixed up with his first name is Paul. Paul does a great job. His podcast, I listen to a lot of different podcasts. He's one of my favorite because he finds interesting stories that you didn't, everybody knows about Gettysburg and this and that, but he finds like interesting untold stories. And he had me do some voiceover for him. Yeah, no problem. What do you need? Of course he had me on there as a guest. So like all these people that are in the history community, just fabulous people, man. I mean, it's a great family. I'll tell you this. Some of you may remember me on Channel 4. And, news was fun. There was a time where I was really excited about it, but I kind of got burned out. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do now. I mean, I really feel that way. And I'm building something big. And that's what I'm doing here on YouTube. I'm building. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling for a while. I'll be back in about 40 minutes, and we're going to take a look at what this dough has done in the meantime. All right. So hang in there. Friday's almost over, and wow, I don't even know how to, oh, here we go. End stream. This is always awkward.